The X-Men franchise is a group of films that I have come to like more and more over the years, and appreciate even further every time I watch a film in the series. They have a completely different feel and a completely different vibe than any other superhero franchise. The inconsistencies of these films are oddly consistent, ironically, and to make these films special and unique. They tell different kinds of stories and overall have some phenomenal standout films that can compete and be acknowledged as the greatest superhero films of all time. So today, I will be reviewing and or ranking all 13 X-Men films, starting with the worst. But first, hi. My name is Tyler, and I love film. And today, we will be talking about the X-Men films. And if we're starting with the worst, the New Mutants would be the correct place to start. The New Mutants overall is a underwhelming, disappointing, boring slog of a film. A film that is barely even cohesive and not even a full, complete story. With little character development, a plot that makes no sense, and completely wasted ideas that could have made a solid film, just creates this disappointing mess of a film that was meant to be the final X-Men film, that does not do anything that is based off justice. So that forces me to give this film a 4.7 out of 10. The next film on this list, coming in number 12, is X-Men: The Last Stand. I in no way hate this film, and I do believe that it is slightly underrated. The film is entertaining and does have a stupid plot, but it is the first X-Men film that resembled anything comic booky. It definitely feels like a piece of X-Men media. The film has some very underwhelming plot elements, though, and completely wastes its characters, seemingly destroying the franchise beyond repair and sending it into a peril, making the franchise never able to truly recover from this film when reflected on. This film was the first attempt at adapting the Dark Phoenix saga and the first time that they completely botched it. But overall, the film is disappointing and wastes its potential for what could have been a superior third entry. And these reasons lead me to give this film a 5.5 out of 10. X-Men Origins Wolverine is also a film that I don't think deserves as bad of a rap as it gets. The film is fully entertaining. I enjoy almost every moment of this film. If not greatness, if not good, the film is at least entertaining. And the film does have some good ideas, and seems to have stricken a perfect tone for a Wolverine film. But the problem with it is that nothing is learned by the characters. There's no reason that you should care about this film because you are not given one. You're not compelled to any of these characters, and the film doesn't dive deep into anything interesting that they could have with a Wolverine origin story. A true X-Men Origins Wolverine story could be a masterpiece and one of the greatest superhero films ever made, but instead we got this. And yeah, I can see why many people hate this film, but I still enjoy it, even if it could have been great. I give this film a 5.7 out of 10. X-Men Apocalypse is a film I remember being very hyped for when it came out. It came out alongside Captain America: The Winter Soldier when I was way younger, in second grade, and I was very excited for this film. This was the first X-Men film that I actually saw trailers for coming out in recent memory. The film looked action-packed, cool, compelling, with a cruel, terrifying, intimidating villain, and it looked like it was gonna have a lot of epic moments. Imagine my disappointment when I actually saw the film years later. By the time I saw this film for the first time completely through, I had a significant understanding of film and what makes a film good, and this film is not a good film. It is not a great film. There is a lot of problems with this film. It is boring and dull in many places, very little character development, a terrible story, and it literally regresses most of the best characters from other films. But Yet, I still like the film. The film has this weird charm and this kind of epic grandiose that makes the film compelling to watch, at least slightly. And yes, I do have slight nostalgia for this film and for what I wish it could have been. But what it could have been isn't what it is, and to put it lightly, the film isn't very good. I give this film a 5.9 out of 10. Okay, this one's going to take some explaining, but I believe X-Men Dark Phoenix had the potential to be the greatest X-Men film yet, or at least the greatest X-Men film about the X-Men. The way the film started out was relatively strong, with a promise of escalation later in the film. But everything started to get hairy halfway into the film once Jean Grey met up with Magneto. The film actually had stakes. There was actual human emotions in it, and a lot of conflicting, bigger ideals that weren't just about race and differences. It was about power and corruption and how actual X-Men deal with being X-Men and how the public reacts to them and what would happen when a team starts to fall apart. The film felt really realistic and had a lot of promise to it until it didn't. The film completely ruins itself after the point that I said, which is Jean Grey meeting Magneto. There were stakes established and an arc, a phenomenal arc that they could have gone through. The Dark Phoenix itself could have provided a great contrast and in a confliction for Jean Grey. But the film turns out to have one of the worst superhero movie villains ever, and one of the most disappointing finales ever, destroying some of its main characters and regressing Magneto even further. But I do think this film has enough redeeming qualities and should be looked on in a different light. I give this film a 6.5 out of 10. Next, in 8th place, is the film that I believe to be the most overrated in the X-Men franchise. I really have no substantial reason for this, besides the fact that I do not believe that this film is a masterpiece, and that I don't think it handles its tone or its characters as well as the X-Men film that came before this, being the first one. But this film does have a great story, great action, great villains, a great plot, and a great score, and great themes that are executed well. I give this film an 8.0 out of 10. Coming in 7th place is The Wolverine. For many people, this film is a mixed bag, but I overall think this film is a very, very solid movie, and love to watch and revisit it. Though the film has some clunky aspects, including the villain, it also has some highlights, including the action and the character journey that Wolverine goes on through this movie. There's not much more that I can say about this film other than it is very solid, entertaining, and a movie worth your time. I give this film an 8.2 out of 10. Coming in number 6 is Deadpool 2. A film that I like almost unanimously over the first is sadly not as good critically. But this film does embrace its tone fully. It is the wackiest, craziest comic book schlock that you're ever gonna see on the big screen. Though the film lacks the hilarious simplicity of the first, it makes up for that with a better, more compelling villain and a deeper story. I give this film an 8.5 out of 10. Coming in 5th place is X-Men. No matter how much this film tries to deny it, it is a cheesy, over-the-top comic book flick. And once you embrace that, this film can really be something special and can really be something magical and meaningful. This film is well made and has a great tone, solid pacing, a good enough story, and great characters. And you really get to spend time with the X-Men and understand its main villain in this film. So, yeah, I think it was the perfect starting point for this franchise. I give this film an 8.5 out of 10. Coming in fourth place is X-Men First Class. X-Men First Class is a film that for me took a while to warm up to. After seeing clips of it on the endless reruns of the X-Men franchise on FX, I eventually decided to watch this film, and it blew me away. At least after a few viewings, I really started to understand film and understand this film. Matthew Vaughn is a great director, and I love how he makes this film. Again, a perfect tone, but it's also a perfect homage and nostalgia trip to the 60s and the 60s X-Men. This is the perfect origin story from the X-Men and the best X-Men film about the X-Men. With great characters, a great plot, and a great villain, it all melds together to give this film a 9.2 out of 10. Coming in third place is Deadpool. This film took the world by storm. Literally. Especially China, though. This film is just amazing. It's everything. It's the perfect Deadpool film. It's everything we wanted from rated R superhero films. It's hysterical, gory. It has a lot of curse words, everything we want to see, and a little bit of what we don't want to see, if you know what I'm saying. But it also has a compelling story and character that drives that story underneath all that extra stuff, and that's all that matters at the end of the day. This is just a very, very good watch, and I give this film a 9.5 out of 10. X-Men Days of Future Past is such a great film. The thing that makes most great films stand out from the rest is stakes. Just like the film above this and a few below that are superior to many others on this list, stakes really make a film meaningful and keep you compelled and gripped throughout the whole thing. That's not to say that this film doesn't have a good tone, good direction, sharp writing, great characters, heartfelt moments, a good plot, great themes, and actual character progression and arcs, while also telling an epic story, paying tribute to two generations of the X-Men, and being a perfect ending to the original saga of the X-Men that consists of the first three films, X-Men First Class, X-Men Origins Wolverine, and the Wolverine. Overall, this film is just great, and those are the reasons why. I give this film a 9.6 out of 10. Coming in first place is James Mangold's Logan. James Mangold accomplished the impossible with this film. He made a perfect Wolverine story. He made the best Marvel movie up to this point, the best X-Men film, and easily in the top 5 best superhero films ever made. And that's something to be proud of. What makes this film so great is how brutally honest it is. The themes resonate. The film has real stakes, and the characters drive the story. The film has what it wants to say and speaks it clearly. The film is both a love letter to the scarred, tortured character of Wolverine and what should have been a perfect send-off to the X-Men franchise. I give this film a 10 out of 10. This time for being a near perfect film that I find little flaw with.